Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Waters Above. Hope you're all having an amazing week so far. We have a lot to get into in today's video. The Federal Reserve spoke yesterday, bringing volatility to the markets. We're now seeing pretty much all the gains from that trading day have been retested today, just hours into the traditional markets opening up. The next time the Fed speaks is on March 15th. So we got about a month until Lizard Jerome Powell speaks his spells. Until then, we are approaching Super Baal weekend. You're probably all aware that regardless of where you live in this realm, that these big sporting events are rituals and are scripted with a code that will affect events moving forward. So here on this channel, we're not promoting the idea of watching sports or betting on them. We are decoders, a community of decoders who are utilizing our gnosis to expose the predictive programming that these events symbolize. So a week ago, I released my full Super Bowl 57 decoded over on my Patreon at patreon.com/watersabove. I appreciate anyone who joined a membership. I'm so grateful for your support. If you joined my Patreon, you probably noticed how much value comes with the membership, but if you only checked out the Super Bowl decoded, you'll know how deep I went into breaking that down. Tons of gems. It's an hour-long presentation connecting all the dots, and I also just released my newest Red Pill podcast over on my Patreon, where I share how I see the score of this game turning out. We'll be getting into that a little more in today's video, as well as there was a leaked image of the Super Bowl outcome that's been flooding social media, so I'll be breaking that down for everyone today as well as going over the crypto market and sharing my technical analysis outlook for the week. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And with that being said, let's take the clear pill. So we're going to be getting a little bit into dates, and as well, I want to be going over this image that was leaked all over social media. So we'll be breaking that down in a moment. We are in this very crucial time period right now, and I've talked about it in my past videos, but from tomorrow, which will be February 9th, until this Super Bowl Sunday, which will be the 12th of February, connecting to the last 3 days of Hebrew New Year, or Rosh Hashanah, this is back in 2022, is connected by 137 days, which is the 33rd prime number, the 137. So just really quickly, if we go from the 9th and we bring it to the first day of Rosh Hashanah, which was the 25th of September of 2022, you're going to see that 137. And then this just goes every day throughout the 3 days of Rosh Hashanah, and then into the first day of Jubilee, which would be the year 5783 in the Hebrew calendar. That would be Wednesday, the 28th of September 2022, connecting exactly 137 days to this Super Bowl event. So this 137 is a very, very powerful number, being the 33rd prime number. And you're going to see how throughout this video, this number 33 makes so much sense why the Super Bowl is being hosted in Glendale, Arizona on the 33rd parallel, all being tied to these key numbers we're going to be talking about today. So, of course, this is Super Bowl 57. We have a 57 date numerology exactly on this day. This is clearly ritualized. In standard date numerology, you're getting that 12, and we're in the year of the rabbit, Chinese year of the rabbit. Rabbit's giving you that 12 right there, perfectly on that date. And this is also the day leaving 322 days in the year. This is the mirror of the 223, which it's the year we're in, the 223 year. In the rules of numerology, you're removing that 0. And this is the number for Skull and Bones, Secret Society of Yale. I'm sure you guys probably know about this or have watched this in other decodes. Again, I've talked about this in my decode that I shared on February 1st for the Super Bowl decoded, and I went really in depth into all of this. But just a quick connection for you guys with the 322 or the 223, the year we're in. If you actually just type out skull and crossbones, you're going to be seeing that's the 223, and that's the year we're in. So I believe this is clearly going to be a very heavy ritual tied to Saturn specifically, but get into that in a moment. Now, this 137 connection tied to the 33, all about transmutation. Christ died at 33. That has nothing to do with the man. It has to deal with the 33 vertebrae in the spinal column down to the sacrum. Has to deal with claustrum. Has to deal with the pineal gland, secretion, cerebral spinal fluid. This is very, very esoteric, very deep, but it's important that you're aware how whenever we're getting these prime numbers, because they're only divided by themselves or one, you got to pay attention to the connections, especially if it's tied to Hebrew New Year, Rosh Hashanah. So because we were talking about skull and bones and how skull and crossbones, again, even equaling this number, well, the skull, or this symbology of the skull, comes back to Saturn, who is Father Time, also known as Death, the Death card in Tarot, also known as the Grim Reaper. And remember, we were saying the 137 being the 33rd prime. Well, Grim Reaper is going to be giving you the 33 in Chaldean. So definitely going to have some ties here. And since we're talking about Saturn, this Super Bowl will be the last day of the 6th week of this year. So if we just look at the week numbers, we could see right here, 6th week, it's ending on that Sunday, and it transitions us into the 7th week of the year. And 7 is a key number associated with the worship of Saturn, or Kronos. Sabbath day, the Saturn's day, and the Sabbath year, which is every 7 years, is a Shemitah year, all tied to Saturn mythology. And because we're in the year of 223, 2 plus 2 plus 3 equals 7. So it's important that we see. And what we're going to be doing with these decodes, the Year of the Rabbit decoded that I released, and the Super Bowl 57 decoded, tying it back to the mythology. And then we're going to be able to determine the negative, positive energy and how it will tie into finances, geopolitical events, etc. That's my methodology. And I shared it a year ago with the Super Bowl 57 decode that I did before that event, sharing how I felt a lot of negative aspects about the tiger. So because it was tied to Jupiter, in that mythology, Jupiter being the striped planet, or the tiger, we were in the Chinese Year of the Tiger, and the Cincinnati Bengals lost. And we just watched the Cincinnati Bengals lost the game that would have led them into this Super Bowl, which was technically in the NFL season of 2022, which is the Year of the Tiger, and they lost with the same exact score. And what was the score? It was 20-23, or the 2-2-3. They lost the Super Bowl last year, 20-23, the same exact way. It was a tiger ritual. So it's very important that people pay attention to the Chinese New Year aspect of things, Chinese zodiac, because it plays a huge role. And in my Super Bowl 57 decoded that I just released, you will be seeing how I was taking prior iterations of these Years of the Rabbit, Year of the Rooster, etc., and mapping it out to make sense of who would win not only this game, but connecting into why these teams have won their past Super Bowls, being the Chiefs and the one Super Bowl that the Eagles won. And we will also be getting into that in a moment. So, okay, we're talking about a lot of things. Let me just slow things down for a moment, go a little bit exoteric. So I was actually recently told that cryptocurrency advertisements or cryptocurrency exchanges are banned from this Super Bowl. I think that's interesting, but this makes me feel like they will absolutely ritualize this next week even more regarding cryptocurrency. Just my contrarian take on things. So although I've been saying for over half a year now, at least 7 to maybe even 10 months, that by March of 2023 into early May, we should be seeing a relief rally in the crypto market. So whatever happens this weekend still does not change my thesis. Meaning if we were to have a little pullback, I'm still looking towards most of March into April, that April eclipse, solar eclipse on April 20th into the lunar eclipse on May 5th. That's my time frame. Then we have sell in May, walk away, and we'll see how the summer goes. But I've been preparing you guys now for over a half a year of what to anticipate for this Q1 into Q2 of 2023, the year of the Jubilee. So because this is kind of showing up this crypto being banned from the Super Bowl idea, it's important for us here, especially since we're decoding the crypto market. We're trying to see where this fits into all these things. But I understand, and you as well, that these big sporting events, such as the Super Bowl, are simply an energy harvesting ritual. It's bread and circus, specifically football. It's just a reenactment of a Roman battle. a Roman war scene. So somebody sent me this image. You've probably seen it as well. It's allegedly the leaking of the script of how the Super Bowl will turn out, showing that the Eagles are actually winning against the Chiefs by 3 points, total score being 37-34, barely winning. Kind of how last Super Bowl went, where the Rams won 23-20, barely winning that game as well. So we've seen blowout Super Bowls in the past, really high scores versus, only a single touchdown. This one is very close. And this actually makes a lot of sense for me because of how difficult this decode was. It was a very, very arduous and technical decode. So it was difficult for me to get to a place where I finally was settling on a winning team. So if any of you watched my decode that I released a week ago over on Patreon, or if you watched my recent Red Pill podcast, or even if you follow me over on Twitter, you're going to see that I shared in the thumbnail of this how I think the score is going to go and how I think the winning team is going to be. So if you haven't already, you could go follow me over on Twitter. I'll be sharing some updates over there. Just make sure that you're following this account. There's a bunch of scammers pretending to be me, but this is my official account over here. And I shared this thumbnail of the recent podcast. I went over Harmony One Yearn, which was a very interesting coin that I started to do a little decode on, as well as some of the fan favorites, VeChain, Zilliqa, and Hex. So especially the people that have come over from the Crypto Coffee interviews that I've done with him, shout out to him. Appreciate him having me on, and maybe in the future we'll get back together again. But yeah, I went over these projects and I opened up this podcast showing how I believe this is how the score will go. And I was revealing it through more of an esoteric breakdown, of course, with the code. But the big thing being that the Chiefs would win, and this 31-21 adding up to a total of 52. And this 52 is coming back to the year we're in, the year of the rabbit. We have the 52, as well as in Gematria. If you take the Roman numerals of this Super Bowl, LVII, again, it's a Roman numeral, but I'm decoding it more esoterically by typing it in and getting the Gematria of these letters. And we're getting that 5225 as well. It's the same. So this 52 number is really crucial, I believe, especially in this year out of all years. And all of my decode and where I settled on the Chiefs has to do with this man right here, Doug Williams, who was the first black quarterback to start and win a Super Bowl. Again, all tied to race and the race narrative. And this has everything to do with this current Super Bowl that we're in right now, where they're promoting that it'll be the first Super Bowl with 2 black starting quarterbacks. You know what they're doing, just pulling the race card as they usually do. We're in February, which they call Black His Story Month. Again, all ritualized to race. So this is just another card out of their, book that they play as usual. And then this man specifically, was intriguing me because he opened up his professional career on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which was the team that Tom Brady ended his career with, as above, so below. And then he had this blowout game that he won in Super Bowl 22. And this was a legendary game, actually, if you start looking back into the history of past Super Bowls, and that being on the Redskins, which I'm comparing to the Chiefs this year. And the only other team he played for was the Arizona Outlaws, where the Super Bowl this year will be hosted in Arizona. It's just so coded in. And the fact that I even found this guy was like a miracle. I couldn't believe it. It is very, very esoteric. It took me a while to get to this. But once I got to this guy, it sealed the deal for me that, a little bit of a contrarian viewpoint that the Chiefs would win. Because so far what I've collected from not only the mainstream, but just most decoders is this vibe that the Eagles would win. But I don't really care about that. That doesn't affect me at all. I decode with my own strategies and my own methodology, and I'm focused on what I have had work for me in the past. And it's actually really funny because Logan over at Decode Your Reality, shout out to Decode Your Reality, me and him had the same team and the same score, which completely happened by mistake. I had my decode out. I sent it to him initially, and then the score of 31 points was really funny, how we both settled on that, completely isolated from talking with each other about coming to that conclusion. So we'll see how this goes. I think it's pretty amazing. And he is looking at it from a very astrological based perspective, bringing it back to the charts. So both of our decodes are probably complementing each other for sure. So I shared the reason why this 31 to 21 outcome could be, but this goes against this image that we're seeing. So only a couple things I could point out really quick for you guys regarding this score specifically and how this is coded according to this picture that's been leaked is 37 is the 12th prime number, and we are in the year of the rabbit, like I told you before, rabbit and Chaldean giving you the 12. So that's one quick connection to be made right there. Also, the total points between both of these teams, if this score turns out, would be 71 points, and this would be the 17th win for the Eagles in this season. Again, 71-17, the mirror, or as above, so below. And the only Super Bowl that the Eagles won was in 2017, the year that Trump became president, who was attached to the Q movement, Q being the 17th letter in the alphabet. So this is really, really important how this is kind of, whatever generated this and sent this out to the masses and hit the algos, it was scripted to have this particular outcome of score and these particular numbers. And I'm just trying to see it for what it is. But let me just say this. Whatever generated this script was clearly showing connections. But, we're finding out this code. The exoteric is aligning with the esoteric from our decoding. But the main question is this a psyop to have people bet on the Eagles? I'm sure you guys have thought that. The question is, was this so-called leaked image to make people believe this is how it would go? So to me, the way that I perceive these sorts of things is the apex predator knows that we are catching on. They know that we are bound to start decoding all of this and realizing the syncretism here. So by letting this image leak to the mainstream and having it flood the algos with these headlines saying that they leaked the script to the game, this is now building a belief in more people that sports are rigged. And we obviously here, we know that they're rigged, especially these big games. But the point is, now they're just giving you these so-called scripts. So the ones who are like, I call them the level 1 aware, can go and say, see, look, it's all scripted, it's all fake. And then if the Eagles were to actually lose, that person would look stupid. It would further discredit the power of Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology, because the level 1 truther does not decode. The level 1 truther looks for leaked scripts. Please understand what I'm saying right now. And as you level up and actually learn the skills to decode for yourself, you'll quickly realize that scripts do not leak. The elite hide the truth coded into words, symbols, hand signs, sigils. Only the eyes of a decoder will see through this. So I'm not here to say that this isn't a possibility. Anything is possible in the Matrix. But my decode I did shows me that the Chiefs have positive aspects for this year on this specific date and the specific stadium that they're playing at in Glendale, Arizona on the 33rd parallel. We have Glendale equaling 33 in full reduction. So I will admit, though, this was an incredibly tricky decode because both teams have so many connections to determine who would win. The eagle and the arrowhead, both air symbolism in the suburb of Phoenix, Arizona. The phoenix rising from the ashes. You got some air symbolism, but also fire. Any decoder would see that this could go either way, which is why this leaked image is very interesting because it's showing you that both teams have very high scores, but only winning by 3. So this is programming into your psyche that this will be a very anxiety-inducing game for those who care. It'll be very pent up, lots of energy, which is how they love their rituals to go. The more prana that the apex predator receives, they're the ones that ultimately win, regardless of the outcome. Because there's just a couple guys on this field, but how many people are watching it? How many people are at the stadium, yelling, screaming, giving it their energy? You feel me? So if the Eagles win, this is tied to Mercury because Hermes is the eagle, the son of Jupiter, who's the god of this age, Pisces, and that is tied to fiat money or money created out of thin air. It's what Mercury represents, so that'll be the Federal Reserve System. That's why you see they use the eagle. Whenever you're seeing the eagle, this comes back to Mercury because that is the symbol of Mercury. So that is actually why why for me, the eagle is not having any positive connections this year. personally. I have been sharing decodes and thoughts about the Shemitah ending to Jubilee year, etc. So I can't get into all of that now. This is already going to be a longer video, but I'm trying to give you guys as much gems as possible in these. Even in these free YouTube videos, I'm really, giving you as much as I can. So the aspects of it are actually positive between now and the eclipse on May 5th. So again, that's making this decode very tricky. So I'll just repeat what I said. Hermes, Mercury, the eagle, this actually has a negative connotation for the overall year of 2023. But for this moment right now, leading into May 5th, this is kind of positive. So it makes it tricky because we're in that time right now. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this goes, but I am sticking with the idea that the Chiefs would win, that the arrowhead will shoot the eagle out of the sky, and that it will be an outcome that is gonna lead to events in the future. It'll be very, very interesting to see how it all goes. And also comment what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me know exactly how you feel about what I'm sharing and some of the symbology and esoterica. We would love to know your thoughts. So before we get into the TA, go ahead and give this video a like if you haven't already. Spread some love in the comment section. That's what we're all about here. Okay, so let's get into some of the TA. I shared this image recently over on Twitter, actually, how we have this major trend line going from the bottom of 2018. We have this black swan event clearly bought back up right to this trend line in 2020, returning back to it in June of 2022 last year, and then trading alongside it, but finally breaking down and then getting a rejection. So let's zoom in. When we broke down through it, you could see we were trading there, rejection, couple of trading days rejection, and then recently we just traded back into it. So I shared this is the reason why Bitcoin's having a tough time breaking out right now. And if Bitcoin stays up and sideways, it will flood liquidity into the altcoins. So of course, this is a positive time for altcoins. This is how this market works. If Bitcoin was to have a correction and then stay low and sideways in a corrected form, you will see the altcoins bleed out. So right now, after we've had this, essentially a straight line breakout into this resistance, and now we're looking at about over 2 weeks now of just getting rejected around 23 into 24,000. This is a good environment for those stable coins to flood into alts, but we're kind of at a make or break point with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin folds over, we're going to be seeing it regain dominance. If Bitcoin pumps, it's going to regain dominance. We're kind of at that moment where a choice needs to be made by Daddy Bitcoin. And again, we're not Bitcoin maxis here on this channel. We just understand what Bitcoin is, which is the artificial son of Satoshi, who is Saturn. Okay. Anyways, this right now is showing signs of weakness, actually, because whatever happened yesterday, we've pretty much started trading back down into similar levels. If you see over the past 4 trading days, we've come below 23,000. We're holding that support at a pretty clean level, but I would assume that we're starting to see the RSI flatline. Yes, we are. We're starting to see the RSI reset, which is a good thing, because in my last videos that I put out, I was saying how it's ridiculous that we got a 95 RSI on the 12-hour. That's not good, but clearly still in a bearish divergence. So let's get to the weekly close, because we passed through that. We actually did close a lower high. So we have our high coming here about 24,300, and then our high on the recent close, or 2 weeks ago, excuse me, was sitting at the 23.7. So we're still lower. The week prior, pretty much undoing the gains of that, and now here we are just kind of sideways, still getting rejections at this level. Let's look at some of our moving averages and turn off all this extra noise, and we'll be able to see some things that are going on these macro candles. Actually, let me open up my index chart. I think it's a little bit more accurate. So this is really crucial right here on the weekly. We got these 200s, 200 symbol, 200 exponential squeezing together right there at 25,000. It's a key level because that's the local high that we would need to break in order to continue our automatic rally, which I'm assuming our automatic rally will be somewhere in the high 30s, maybe even mid 40,000 range. I know it sounds dramatic, but no one anticipated the move back here to be this dramatic, and that's what I think is repeating exactly right now. And if we were to turn off everything, you'll see what I'm talking about. You see this green breakout here? Well, that's basically akin to this breakout right here. And then you see having the struggle of about 4 to 5 weeks of trading sideways. Well, that's pretty much what we're at right here. And then finally, we just zoom through it. But make note of how it took until May. Well, the eclipses that were happening were in late June and July. So we rose into the eclipses. This year, the eclipses are in April 20th and May 5th. So we're moving earlier. Okay, this is amazing how coded this all is. We have an all-time high. Exactly 1 year later, we hit the low. We have an all-time high. Exactly 1 year later, we literally hit the low. Then we start rising into the following eclipses when we're in a solar cycle. Okay, so here moving up, we were in a solar cycle. Then we went into lunar cycle. We went into a downtrend. Then we went solar cycle. We went up, and then right here, right here we entered a lunar cycle, and then we went into a downtrend. We did have this move push up, but I think that's because Bitcoin is coded to hit all-time highs around Q4 all the time and hit all-time lows around Q4 all the time. And thus far in this cycle, this is how it's been going. I'm not trying to say that it's impossible that in next October that we could go lower, but the cyclical nature of this cycle is obvious now, and it's proven through chart data. I think that what we're seeing is actually very similar to this moment right here of about April into May of 2019, which tells me that these are the final moments before we just move on up. Let's look at some of the pullback targets. I think it's pretty obvious that if Bitcoin was to start closing dailies below 22,600, that there could be a swipe down to 21.5, and this could be validated also by the CME gap that's pretty noticeable here of around 20,000 into 20,500. Again, there's premium, so you have to consider that there will be a price difference, but I don't know if this is going to be filled this soon. What would actually start to make sense is if we were to come down, maybe back test the 22, 21 maybe, and then bounce, leave this gap open to return back to later, probably in like June, July, maybe even fall time of this year. Now, if we were to pull it off soon, it would probably be a very dramatic wick that gets bought right back up, similar to this wick right here. If you were to pause the video and look at it, it is a very dramatic downside wick, but we just popped right back up, closed the candle, and then the next day green. I'm not saying that the trend will play the same way. It's just Bitcoin can do this very easily. We're just huge wick, bear trap, and then trap the shorts, and then liquidate and then continue the other direction. It's a very normal market maker energy. Okay, so if we're going to have retests, I would assume that it'd probably be higher at this time than lower, but we really need to just be cautious because we're at this make or break moment. We saw the Fed spoke yesterday. This energy is going to take a couple days to pass through. I told everyone that I'm assuming by February 13th and moving forward, as we get into the new moon of February, we should start to see the market head into another leg up, another phase to the upside. Definitely by March, though. I would be more conservative and just say the month of March. Let's look at ETH real quick. Okay, so ETH doing a very similar thing, just kind of moseying on up, not really wanting to break out fully, having a big green candle, then a big red candle over and over and over again. And today's no different. And again, you're probably going to see a brutal divergence forming. Sure, exactly. So yeah, this is kind of the territory that it would be best to have a little bit of a pullback. If we're going to do this off of moving averages, I would say breaking below this 200 exponential, probably retesting down here at the 200 simple, which is right in alignment with the 55. That would make a lot of sense. A $1,400 ETH would be very nice at this time, just to reset all the momentum oscillators and have a opportunity for us to actually push even higher. Because if we were just blast through this, I don't think there's going to be as much gains as comparative to having a healthy pullback, little back test, and then continue. Maybe we could even see into the top of this pocket right here, somewhere around this 618. This is a bearish fib pull, but I would say that 3,000 is even in the cards, especially if we're going to see Bitcoin hit that mid 40s territory. So let's look at the weekly and see if we're getting anything here. And we're actually riding on this 200 exponential, so that's a good thing. The 8 simple crossing above that 200 simple, also good. Ideally, we would like to see this 8 cross above this 55, but that's going to take some weeks to go, and we're still just with lower highs. So no reversal signs just yet on ETH, and if ETH was to have a full-blown reversal, that would bode very positively for the altcoins. In this time right now, a back test of the 200 exponential could be a layer to keep in mind. But if we were to start closing above this level right here, somewhere around 1780, that would be a signal for me to jump up into 2000. So again, we're just teeter-tottering at these levels. If we really are honest with ourselves, this is 25 days of sideways in a topside range. Getting kind of boring up here. Okay, the last thing, we're going to be just quickly looking at XRP. XRP getting rejected at this 200 exponential, but now sandwiched between the 200 simple, 200 exponential. Definitely key moving averages to consider. We got that 55 sitting around 37 cents. That's nice. If we were to have a move down, that would be a key level to keep in mind. Also around just 37 flat. So about 37 cents will make a lot of sense for just a short-term back test, slight pullback. Also, you have this, this is really building up a lot of trading range in the high 30-cent area, which I think is positive for XRP. Meaning, if we were to have a breakout into a relief rally somewhere around $1 up to $1.30, $1.40, we might never go below this like 30, lower than the 30-cent layer in regards to lots of trading activity. As much as here, especially. Now, I'm not saying we'll never go below 30 cents again. I'm saying that if it was to happen, it won't last long. And because we've had this moment here from May all the way till now, and that's 200 plus days, and we haven't actually spent too much time below 30 cents, I like that XRP is now shifting up into the high 30s. And I think the next shift up would probably be even into like 40, 50 cents. So kind of just, again, taking it one layer at a time, filling out this trading range, which is healthy. This is why XRP doesn't have huge dramatic, sell-offs as much so as we've seen with other assets. But the pumps on this are very random, and you kind of need to take action. And that's proven in the way this chart moves. It just has a quick pump, Bart Simpson head, pump, Bart head, over and over and over again. I've been talking about this on the channel for 2 years now. So anyone who follows this work, you kind of know that this is how this coin moves. Pump, Bart Simpson head, dump, right back to a support. Which means that we're kind of in a process now where we need to see this asset develop into what we would call price discovery. It has yet to do that, and that's making this asset a little bit more boring and a lot more speculative for people with their assumptions of how the SEC case will go, etc. So shout out to anyone who has come over to my channel from the Bearable Bull interview, or anyone who's interested in XRP. You probably know that I have a very odd take on it, but it's based in the esoterica, and I'm using technical analysis. So whether you don't want to believe in the Gematria and numerology, it doesn't matter. We're looking at this from a charting perspective as well, combining it all together to really make sense of why this asset is moving the way that it is, regardless of what happens with the SEC case or Flare, Songbird. Doesn't matter to me. I know my strategy, I know my code, and going through my, all of the plays that I made in this market, XRP was actually one of my most successful plays that I've had. So I actually do enjoy doing TA on this, but it's more of a trader's coin, not as much of a hodler's coin. If you trade it, you're able to take, profits along the way in this choppy market that's been going on for over 5 years now. But I think we're all waiting for a price discovery moment, and I would not be surprised if we're getting very, very close to that. I'm not trying to hype people up. I just think the more suppressed this is, the more sideways this is, the more a explosive breakout is in the cards. And because this asset tends to do that, that's not something rare. Anyways, final words. I think it's important to have a short-term backtest in this market, but we do not know how this is going to go. Bitcoin keeps sinking below 23K, then rising right back up. The stock market is completely just up and down, really, really volatile. We had earnings come in last week. We had the Fed speaking yesterday. So let's let this energy play out. I think that by the end of this Super Bowl ritual moving into next week, and especially into the February new moon, we will have a lot more clarity on this next move for the market. But we're kind of sandwiched in between those two moments. Got to let it play out. If you're new to this market, do not trade it. Be a sophisticated investor, have a dollar cost averaging strategy. This is not the time to play with fire. I hope you're all having an amazing day and enjoyed this video. And anyone who came over to my Patreon to support my work, I really appreciate you. I'm grateful for every single one of you. Wishing you an amazing rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.